Okay, another 45 minutes, maybe a little more, has passed after we did the one stretch and fold, and now we have this gorgeous pizza dough here. So, a couple of tips on getting it out of your container. You're going to sprinkle a little bit of flour just right on the top, not a lot. And then what you want to do is actually invert it onto the table and your workstation, and you want to let it fall on its own. Now this one is going to be touching, so I'm going to just lift it and hold it and let it come loose by itself. You can use your bench scraper and help encourage it to come out a little easier from the side, but especially if you have a clear container like this, it's pretty satisfying to watch it just fall away from the sides. At this point, you want to really, although you gave it a lot of strength before, you want to really allow it to just be untouched, unbothered too much. So again, this is the recipe that's just going to make 2 smaller doughs, maybe a 12 to 14 inch pizza, depending on the size, the thickness of your crust. You should see a lot of gorgeous action with the yeast here. This is the one we made with the pouliche. And I'm going to just eyeball it in half and make my circles as we talked about, as we watched. It's always a good idea when you're portioning and scaling to get used to using something to cut through the dough and not to pull and tear it, because that actually changes the structure of the yeast formation, the gluten formation. So you really want to make sure that you are cutting through and be clean with that. When you're scaling, especially at the beginning, you're not always going to get it right. So don't feel badly about the times when you have like 5 different small pieces to get the portion that you're going for, as long as you're cutting. And a good way for that, by the way, let's say I had this small piece here and this small piece here that came off. The best way to handle that is you'll take these pieces and you put it on the top, and then when you pick this up and you put it over to start to do that shaping that we watched the video from, you just tuck it underneath. Not too much flour, and put it aside. That's the flour that we just had right on top when we sprinkled to invert it. And the same here. You just want to pick it up. You can see it sticking a little bit to the table, and that's not a bad thing at all. All this excess, hopefully it comes through and you can see it. All this excess flour we don't really need, because there's enough on our hands and on the dough that we can start to do that shaping and pulling that we watched yesterday. Again, remember I said that hula hoop motion and the way you see it? And he was talking about the membranes. This is a great looking dough, so I think you guys are going to be happy. Okay, so that's my pre-shape. I'm starting to get that innie belly button that I was talking about, but I don't need to go much further because it's just a pre-shape for now. Let's go for the second one. All of this activity. I didn't degas because it wasn't that big of a piece, but definitely you could degas, which all it takes is a little bit of pressure. You don't want to be, playing the conga here. So again, you sort of pull, hula hoop motion, clockwise, counterclockwise, doesn't matter too much. All right, so we've got a pre-shape. We set those aside and go from there. If you're going to do your slow retarded fermentation, you're going to go directly into an airtight container. Those quart containers work well for a dough size like this. 4 to 6 hours before you're going to pull it out. That's so much fun. A little bit of flour and you're going to roll it and make it a pizza. But you do need to give it a little bit of time, because now we've tightened all of that gluten up and it's going to resist us to try to get us that gorgeous shape. Okay,